This is what we call a teaching moment. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Mr. K. I'm an 8-year veteran of the Marine Corps, and I continue to serve as a government, economics, and history teacher in a high school. So before addressing your comment, I want to address what the Federal Reserve is, because I don't think you understand, and most Americans don't, so don't take it the wrong way, what it is and what it does. So the Federal Reserve is like a central bank. What it handles is the supply of money and, of course, the interest rates. Now, its job is to be independent of the government. In fact, they handle what we call monetary policy, not to be confused with fiscal policy, which is right up there, and that is usually Congress. Now, the president also has a say in this side of things, which is where they get tariffs. Tariffs, if you don't know, are a tax on imported goods, and that's one way a president can move things around. The president also has the power of executive order. However, the Federal Reserve's job is to maintain stability amongst our economy. So if inflation is too high, what they're going to do is something called contractionary monetary policy, which means they are going to slow down printing money. They're going to increase interest rates, which causes less people to buy. And in other words, it slows down spending. It's painful, it sucks, and no one likes it. Now, you mentioned history doesn't back up what I'm saying. Well, you're way wrong. This is a president by the name of Harry S. Truman, who was dealing with a war in Korea in the 1950s. And he wanted to take some pressure off the war by lowering the interest rate. However, the Federal Reserve at the time said no. And guess what happened? They didn't lower the interest rate. Oh, wait. There's this other president by the name of Lyndon Johnson. Wait, no. He wanted the interest rate to get lowered too because of the war in Vietnam. But wait, the Federal Reserve go for that? No, they didn't. Oh my God. What about Jimmy Carter? The 1970s was awful. We had this guy, Paul Volcker, this big, tall guy. Didn't Jimmy Carter want the interest rates to go lower? Volcker said no. In fact, the interest rates spiked into the 1980s. We're talking almost 18%. The president didn't have a say? What? They're running independently? No. Now I can go on between all the other presidents now, because every single one of them asked to get the interest rate lower, but I'll just start with Trump. 2017, he called to get the interest rates lowered. At this time, this guy who was put in power there by Donald Trump said no. Until 2020, when the economy took a huge hit because of COVID, and what they did was they lowered the interest rates to get spending going. So 2020, accelerated economic growth. Why? Because the economy was in bad shape because of COVID. Then interest rates spiked, and what we get is what we call contractionary monetary policy. And that's what we're dealing with right now. Trump wants it lowered. The Federal Reserve is waiting for the data to be the right time